What is up, dudes? It is of course Sugi-Khan here, and today I'm gonna be reviewing Supervive, which is now finally out of beta since 2 days ago, and it's now available on Steam, where it is free to play. It also was launched on China, I believe, throughout NetEase's platform, and this patch 1.0 basically has served as the global launch of the game. Now, I did try out Supervive during its alpha as well last year, and I remember liking it back then. Thought there was a lot of potential in the game, but I also felt there were things that definitely needed polishing. I kind of recall there being some frame-related issues and definitely some latency-related issues as well, which might have been because they might have conducted testing on an actual American server, and obviously as an European I would have had a very, very high ping, which could have been one of the reasons. But now that I actually played it again during this launch on an actual European server, everything felt so much more polished, or at least that is the impression that I'm getting so far. Now let's actually explain, for those who haven't played the game before, what is Supervive, who made it, and what type of a game is it. So this is a battle royale game with MOBA elements. It is very similar to a game that we reviewed some years ago called Battlerite, which is no longer online. The developers basically shut it down due to unpopularity. And that game was basically similar with a combat, which was very reminiscent of a MOBA, but the map was basically playing out as a battle royale. And Supervive is very similar in that sense, but I would argue that this is a lot more fast-paced, it's more run and gun, and it's a lot more like ranged-based, as there's a lot more melee characters in Battlerite, and it was a lot more focused on like doing counters and stuff like that. So it definitely had a bit of a slower tempo to it and feel, and maybe it wasn't so button smashing as Supervive is. Not to say that there isn't skill in Supervive, as there's a lot of like skill shots and shots that you actually have to land, but I feel like you can more freely shoot, you know, as contrasted to Battlerite. So also you can artistically see the influences from League of Legends, as a lot of developers actually working on Theorycraft Games, which is the developers behind Supervive, actually worked before at Riot Games. I think a lot of people left Riot to this studio, and you can definitely see those influences in the art style and the character designs especially. So especially when I look at the characters, they feel very League of Legends, but also I feel there's a presence of this like Marvel Rivals, like American comic book style with some type of anime sprinkled aesthetic top of that, because Marvel Rivals is obviously a comic book style, but it has a lot of anime flavor to it, and this is kind of like the combination of style that you can see in Supervive. And obviously Battlerite was fantasy, and this is obviously like a sci-fi thing with fantasy elements blended in, which is probably the best way to do these types of games, as it gives you so much more freedom to design different types of characters, whether they're going to be melee or ranged. Now, so in this game, obviously there's a huge map, and it's kind of like very varied in things that you can do in it. There's a lot of interactable elements here. And contrasted to like Battlerite, I felt like that map didn't have a lot of things to do. Like there were monsters there were loot, but here you can ride the train and, you know, use these gliders, because the map is basically consisted of these islands where you're going to be moving around, escaping basically the purple fog, and obviously if you get into the fog, you're going to be starting to lose HP and eventually going to be dying. So it's like a game design that is kind of built up to, you know, make the game last, you know, less than 20 minutes. I think most of my games were around 30 minutes or something like that. So there's definitely that element there, as it's much more like faster paced game compared to League of Legends. So people who don't like playing plus 30 minutes game in League, this might be a great opportunity to find something fast paced with a lot more faster matches, which is pretty good. And basically there is the trio mode where there's a 3-player teams, there's an arena mode which is 4 versus 4, and then there's a bunch of like different type of custom game lobbies as well. But basically 4 versus 4 arena, and then we have the 3-player team on Battle Royale, and those are basically the game modes. When it comes to these types of games, you definitely don't want to spread your player base too much out, because that's going to be affecting queue times. Riot definitely learned that, so the main mode is obviously the Battle Royale. And then there's obviously ranked, which you are going to be unlocking once you hit like level 12 or something like that. So basically, you just can't immediately jump into ranked, which is a good thing. I actually prefer this type of a game design on a lot of competitive games. And there is some obviously updates that were done and came out with this 1.0 update, and obviously a lot of the recent reviews for the game have been very mixed because people don't like this new armory mechanic, and I'm pretty sure that that is going to be fixed. They're going to be listening to the feedback and they're going to be making some adjustments to them. So the recent feedback I think is very temporary, and the overall consensus on the game will fix from here. Now, there's also a lot of characters in the game, currently 22, and most of them are ranged characters, as I alluded earlier. There's a couple of characters which kind of are melee, but a lot of them have gap closers, blinks, and, you know, ways they can get closer to the opponent. So you're not so limited as like a melee character as you would probably be in like a Dota, where you would be like a ranged versus a melee character, which totally sucks on a lane. But here you can definitely feel that every character feels viable. I didn't feel like characters specifically felt like underpowered. I was able to win games on multiple different characters, and I had a pretty good scores actually. I came first place multiple times in the game, so maybe there's an influx of noobs coming in, or I'm just that damn good at this game. And also there's a lot of like progression mechanisms in the game, like you can get mastery for these characters as you play more with them. There are obviously skins in the game, which is part of the monetization plan, and then there's also season pass, which is like basically every online game uses these days, and that's pretty good basically because it creates player retention. And also there's that mechanism at, you know, it's some of a progression system top of the existing mastery systems and unlocking the characters inside the game. I think there's like a 4 or 5 starting characters which are in free rotation in the game, and when you do like a couple of the initial quests, you're gonna be unlocking a few other extra characters. So there isn't really that big of a grind to basically to get the characters in the game, in my opinion. Right now I have like 9 characters basically unlocked or something, well, minus the free rotation obviously. So in my opinion, like, yeah, this is pretty fast unlocking process. But in case you want to buy the characters, those are going to be 800 coins, and that is roughly around, you know, not exactly 10 euros, but somewhere close there. So I mean, we're talking about, well, maybe like 8 euros more precisely. But obviously they have a lot of bundles here, so in case you want to invest a bit more into the game, you can buy a lot more, as there's going to be those bonuses. But everything can be actually, to my understanding, unlocked just by playing the game. So I do like this system. I like the leaderboards. There's a lot of stats which are also transparent there when it comes to like your performance in the games. The interface in the lobby, everything like feels pretty smooth. But there are some points of criticism that I do have for the game. Like when you actually start playing the game, it can feel kind of chaotic at first. And that was really a lot of the case with League of Legends, Dota, and I guess a lot of other games. But as you play more you understand what's going on in the map. I think because the character kits are not as complex as in League or Dota, you don't really need to understand that much of the other other enemies, hunters as they are called in this game. So the characters are kind of simple and they don't have very high learning curve. Not to say that there isn't any to learn and master play at a high level, but I feel like they have kind of made in a good way like a simple designs of sorts, and I kind of like that. And I've tried most of these characters. Most of them actually can be, or all of them can be actually tried on the training mode. So before you buy anything, you can try them out and feel like, oh, I want to play this character. So that's a pretty neat thing. There's also a lot of customization in the game. There's emotes, there is pedestals, sprays, wisp, which is basically this thing you turn into when you die. Then there's a glider. So there's a lot of skins to unlock in this game, which I think is pretty cool. So there's a lot of collectibles. The characters obviously have skins as themselves. And so cosmetic wise, I think it's pretty good. I don't really have much opinion on the pricings yet, as I have not like fully dived into them. And obviously you can unlock a lot of stuff from the season pass as well. And then there's obviously daily missions and things like that, which are going to be getting you points and crafting materials and things like that. So there are a lot of progression systems in the game, which are very important to keep the retention on, because that was Battle Royale's problem. It was very popular at the start, but then the players basically left away and were no longer playing the game. So it had a very much of a decay of the player base. So I think these types of things actually keep the retention on. Now, then, lastly, were there any issues that I had with the game? So one of the things that I had to really get used to, and this is coming from a League player, was really the controls. Some of the hotkeys were in weird places, and as there's so many items inside the game that you're going to be obtaining from the loots, and so many active abilities, potions, armor things, which are from these Battle Royale games, I felt like there was a lot more stuff here to interact with, and there's a bit of a learning curve to remember all the items, which one is better item for this character and that character. So there's a bit of a learning curve when it comes to like learning the map, learning all of these special objects inside the map and things like that, and maybe there's too many items in the game. I'm just feeling like there's too many pushable buttons in a game like this, because obviously like League of Legends, for example, they made intentionally a lot of items which had only passive traits instead of having active abilities which you would have to cast. So having less castable abilities would be preferable in my opinion, but that's, I guess, really a preference when it comes to it. But this is kind of more like a preliminary review in Supervive. This is definitely like the best MOBA you can play besides of League of Legends. And I feel like now that you jump in, there's going to be a lot of noobs alongside with you, so there won't be a lot of smurfs just stomping on you. So I think this is a great time to basically start the game. I'm also going to be leaving my referral code down below, which you can insert inside the game, and I think you and I will both get some bonuses by doing so. And I'm going to be doing a bit more fleshed out review perhaps later on, a bit of like a post-launch thoughts on the game, and maybe I will start doing some guides and other type of content around Supervive, seeing if it's going to be starting to kick off really on a high end and becoming like a really serious competitor for League of Legends. But there's a lot of potential in this game. You have a lot of talented developers behind it, and the gameplay is pretty smooth. There's a bit of a learning curve there, but I mean, once you like put out 20 games, you're starting to really get hang of it, in my opinion. And obviously, you don't have to jump into ranked if you feel intimidated by the skill level in the game. But yeah, it's really a lot of adjustment, but the game feels fun, nice, good FPS, good frame rates, good graphics, and a lot of good optimization updates. But that's basically what I have to do. Check out my other stuff on the channel as well, and I will be seeing you in the next video when it will be dropping out. Cheers.